Good morning and welcome to St. John's Lutheran Church on this fourth Sunday during the season of Easter. My name is Pastor Rick Roberts, and today's sermon will focus mainly on Psalm 23, the beloved Good Shepherd Psalm. And I want to start with just a few lines of a favorite old hymn. I love to tell the story of Jesus and his love. The story of Jesus' love, of God's love for the world, began before the creation of the world. It has always been God's plan to redeem and restore our broken world through the story of Jesus, the Christ, who lived to bring and give the world God's unconditional gift of love. That story continued throughout history and was clearly seen in the words of the Good Shepherd of Psalm 23, where God said, "You shall not be in want." Well, we are always going to want things, right? It's just our human nature. In this psalm, God gives us the want we need the most: God's forever love, forgiveness, and acceptance. God said, "I will make you lie down in green pastures," by making us rest and not feel that we have to know it all, be it all, and do all. God said, "I will lead you beside still waters," by calming the rough seas of life, giving us peace in the midst of our many storms. God said, "I will restore your soul," by always reminding us of God's all-inclusive and all-affirming love, restoring us in body, mind, and spirit. God said, "I will guide you along right pathways," helping us to walk in the way of God, in the way of love. God said, "I will walk with you through the valley of the shadow of death," so we might never fear death. It is only the new beginning of living forever with God. God said, "You will not fear any evil, because I promise to be with you always." God said, "My rod and my staff will comfort you," by always protecting us while drawing us near to God, to God's heart. And God said, "You will know my goodness I created you with, and my mercy of forgiveness and love will be with you all the days of your lives, and you will dwell in God's house forever." For me, there is no greater psalm than this beloved psalm. There is no greater picture of Psalm 23 than Jesus. Not just saying he was the good shepherd and being the gate for the sheep. It was seeing Jesus live Psalm 23. Throughout his life, we saw Jesus always searching for and finding all lost sheep in his family and his friends and even in his enemies. We saw Jesus welcoming all lost sheep, filling their want for peace by healing and feeding them in body, mind, and spirit on many green Judean countrysides in their pastures, by calmed once stormy Galilean seas, and most specifically, as the Good Shepherd embraced the world when he was lifted high on his cross. It was there, with his outstretched arms, Jesus drew all sheep to himself, for all to see the extent of God's heart, God's love for the world, to take away our greatest fears of separation from God and death by defeating the power of sin and death on his cross and at his glorious resurrection, bringing all sheep, and all means all, to God's forever home. I believe Jesus' main purpose for coming to our world was to fulfill God's pre-creation promise of being the good shepherd of Psalm 23, to show us just how much God so loved the world. And that is our main belief as Lutheran Christians. We are saved by God's grace and God's grace alone, God's unconditional love for all. At a recent dean's meeting with our bishop and his staff, we basically said, as great as our saved by grace belief is, it seems to also be a great secret. We truly believe many people do not know the love God has for them or for the world. What many, if not most people know about God is a retributive and very conditional God. You better do this or you better do that or else. Would you agree with that? If the world knew, believed, and lived the story of our Good Shepherd's all means all love, we would not have all the divisive and destructive problems in our world. Psalm 23 ends with the words, "I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever," or as some verses say, my whole life long. God's house is not just a place we go to when we die. God's house, God's kingdom, is everywhere. We believe God's heavenly house is a place of no sin and total peace. That is the house the Good Shepherd calls us to build and live in here. As Jesus said in his prayer, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." That is the house God is building and growing through us here at St. John's. That is why we do all we do in worship and faith formation classes on Sundays and throughout the week for all ages, to help us learn about the Good Shepherds, about God's amazing grace. That is why we do all we do with our many compassion ministries. We are helping many people in need in our community. That is why I am so excited by our council's decision to be even more supportive of our Thrive in Action Team ministry, as compassion ministry is looking at many additional ways to help countless more people in our community through those teams. And we are doing all we are doing to encourage everyone to make the commitment to become involved in giving their time, talents, and treasures for the sole purpose to bring the Good Shepherd's love, peace, and hope into all of our lives, and yes, all means all. We are setting a clear focus for God's ministry at St. John's. That focus is to help everyone who walks in our doors or are touched by our many God-given and blessed ministries to know who and whose we all are as God's beloved children. My calling as a pastor is to help Jesus' church to reclaim the original Christian narrative of living like Jesus. We are called to be equipped and empowered to help everyone know the secret of the Good Shepherd's amazing and unconditional gift of grace. And that secret cannot be a secret anymore. We are to learn that secret, to help the world know God's all-inclusive love, so we can all have more hope and more peace in our world. That is the commitment the Good Shepherd gave us and commands us to follow. Jesus, as the gate, opened the gate to God's gift of grace to all sheep. And yes, all means all. Jesus also gave us the example of how we are to loudly and proudly live, singing, "I love to tell the story of God's love." What will our commitment be?